Welcome to Amalgam Hour, the movie and comic podcast. I'm Robin.
And I'm Dan.
That's good enough, Dan. Today we're going to be discussing the issues with modern comics. What makes them bad, what makes them unbearable to read. Because probably a lot of people, like me, I have a lot of problems with modern comics, how they do business, how the comic industry messes up all the time. So we're going to be discussing a few of my 1,000 points for the comic industry. Because this is kind of like a prequel to a show hopefully we're going to be doing soon called Bad Issues, where every week or every month or every whatever I discuss a problem with the comic book industry as a whole. And this is kind of a little taste of what that will be like. Alright, Dan?
Yeah.
What should our first one be? Come on then. Let's just get...
Beautiful intro.
Thank you.
So
Thank
professional.
you. Thank you. Let's get straight into this then. First of all, the price of comics these days. You know how much a comic is, Dan. Go on. What's the roundabout price?
Like 15 quid is too much.
I meant for a single issue, but okay.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. Like a single issue, like here in the UK, is about £3.99. That's what I've noticed, or at least that's what I looked at the other day when I was looking at Marvel's Contagion, which is from 2 years ago and is still £3.99 on my local comic book shop. Makes sense for them because if they bring the price down, they're the only ones losing money. Not Marvel, not DC, not all of this. And I have such certain opinions about the price of comic books because I see them as more valuable than books. I know books take longer, but comics have more people who work behind them. There's art, that sort of thing. And I have such problems with the pricing because, in my opinion, as a comic book creator, I'm like, it should be higher for the amount of value you're getting. But as a comic book reader, I'm like, it should be lower. Do you get what I mean? Yeah. Do you have any problems, personally, with the price? Because you've probably bought as much comics as I have, or even more.
In physical, I only buy a comic if I know I'm going to like it.
Yeah, that's it. Back in the day, and I'm talking 60s, comics used to be worth pennies because they used to be next to newsstands at the, they used to be at the very end of your shopping journey as a little bit of an impulse buy. Do you know, as magazines as we had as kids, Dan? Where it's we'll go into Tesco and we'll buy a magazine because it's got a cool toy on it. That's what it used to be, where it's it's only £1 or 50 cents. Just, of course, buy it. Comics have become the opposite of an impulse buy. It's becoming niche. I have to seek it out. I have to want to get it, that sort of thing. So that's what, physically, if I know a book is great, I'll get it. Because I just can't take the risk with the amount of money books cost these days,
Yeah.
If a single issue was £1, sure, of course I get it.
Nice little tester.
Exactly. Yeah, it's issue 1 of, I don't know, Magneto. Sure. Which I did ages ago because the Buns Magneto run is great. So I was just sure, I'll buy it. But I had to persuade myself into getting it because it was £3.99. But if it was £1, sure, of course.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
the first issue should be cheaper.
That would
than the rest.
That would be a fun, because they do that a lot on digital comics. I know that for a fact. Because as the book goes on longer, the first couple of issues get decreased in price to try and lure new people in, which is a smart marketing strategy, new way to get new readers and stuff. But then we do this, Dan. We only buy what's on sale because of the price of comic books. You know what I mean?
I bought volume 5 of the latest Venom run last week and it wasn't on sale.
Yeah.
That's only because we had the first 4 volumes and I got invested in the series.
Exactly. And that's great. if you're hooked and you then buy something for full price, they get a lot more value out of it. But then the only reason we bought the originals because it was cheaper than what they were selling it for. And I know what problem is with digital. Digital is an entire new market for comics. Past, I'd say, 5 years, people have actually sold online. Digitally. Not physically selling them through like Amazon or something like that, eBay, whatever. Comixology. It's so weird, the pricing, because new issues are the exact same price as the physical issues in comic book stores. Which is obviously weird. But, do you know why that's because, Dan?
Why?
Because as soon as Comixology opened, every single comic book store went, well, no one's going to buy our books if they're cheaper on there. So Comixology made an agreement with comic book stores and Marvel and DC that every time a new book goes out to a comic book shop, it has to be the exact same price on Comixology. Has to be the exact same day it gets posted to comic book stores. Because comic book shops went up in a tizzy because they thought it was going to steal all their revenue. And by the way...
It would have, probably.
But that's the thing. If one thing will steal your entire revenue, that's a bad business model.
Yeah.
And it's like, it would have become more niche probably, but it's like, you wait a month and then that book goes down in price anyway. So it wouldn't have truly ruined it. Do you get what I mean? It would have meant more people are buying online. But I don't know if that always means less people are going to comic book shops. Because some people just love physically. And I love the look of physical, having them on a shelf or like in my hand. Feels great. But yet again, it's the price. If I want to buy a volume of something, a graphic novel, obviously a collection of 5 issues, and that's just too much. At £3.99 an issue. Do you know what I mean?
I've got a 9-volume flash run, and I think it cost me over £100 to get it all.
Exactly, and that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Like, no offense to him, but like, it is. And as a comic book like creator, I've like tried to think about new ways of doing it. And what really inspired me was on Comixology, DC is being very forward with their digital sales. So they have started making digital only comics. Like the next Batman and Damian Wayne and Superboy. You know? Like the Super Sons, that's it. They have their own running. Some book called Justice. Legends of the Dark Knight has come back, which I'm incredibly happy about. And I think they're about £1.70. Brand new. But
that's pretty good.
They have less panels in every page. They always have 2 or 3. And it's only about 15 pages. Do you get what I mean?
You're not getting much there.
Exactly, but there's no perfect balance. Because obviously, they've got to... If they decrease prices, they're going to decrease sales. And maybe decrease in sales because comics are already a small market. That won't mean an increase in buys. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
It definitely will in some aspect. But would that be a benefit to decreasing the overall price? Because then
you get more sales from casual people like me and you. We don't buy everything.
Exactly. And the reason I don't buy everything is because of the price. You know? But if an issue was £1, I would buy so much more. You know?
Yeah.
Like everything in my Comixology wish list I would have already bought. You know?
Yeah.
Which is really interesting that they sell those digital exclusives on Comixology. Because as, yet again, a comic creator, I've looked into the pricing of Comixology. Now, this is for the audience at home and you, Dan. Guess what percentage Comixology takes from that overall price?
Like half.
50 fucking percent. 50% for doing nothing but making it so I can sell my books. You know? It's not like a comic book shop where if they got 50%, that would make sense. Because they need to sell it on. They need to pay for staff. They need to have that book physically in a shop that takes up room. Comixology, you're selling it online. So as a indie creator, it's harder. I reckon Comixology has a deal with like Image, Marvel, and DC, you know? Because if they didn't have Marvel and DC, I would never have got Comixology. So they definitely have a deal there, which is interesting. And honestly, I don't have like an answer to the price of comics being faulty. I've thought about it so much, trying to price my own books and stuff. I like the digital exclusives where it's like about £1 and you get a section of a story or half a story, whatever. That sounds better to me as long as it's compressed storytelling. You know? It's like, oh yeah, I read 2 issues and that's a full story. It's not 2 issues strung along for a 6-issue graphic novel. Do you get what I mean? Like, people do that. X-Men does that. Everyone does that. And I hate that. That's why Infernum Comics will have the most decompressed storytelling ever. No, compressed storytelling ever. Do you get what I mean?
So you just contradicted yourself there.
You know what I meant. It'll be like, because then you get more bang for your buck. So that's my idea. It's like, I wouldn't mind paying more if I was getting full stories almost every issue. Because the most happy I've been with a comic buy is the reboot of Moon Knight in modern time. Because you haven't read that yet, Dan. It is so full of dialogue, scenes, so much narration, so much character development, all of that. I'm happy I paid around like the right price. Because I feel like I got the most bang for my buck out of that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's maybe a give and take where it's like, hey, Marvel and DC, if you give us more of story, we'll be happy to give you this amount. You know?
Yeah.
But then there's a still thing about impulse buys. Because that's the dream, innit? To have like one of my own comics in a comic book shop.
Yeah, eventually.
But, yeah, they wouldn't if it, like, probably wouldn't sell much if it was £3.99. But if it had a little sticker on that front that said 99 pence, you know someone's, like, more people are going to buy it because it's only 99 pence. I'm supporting...
Yeah, like I'm buying this one here.
Yeah.
This is only 99p.
It's like,
why not?
You go in there, you've got £10, you buy £9 worth of books. And then you see a book that's 99 pence. You're like, might as well. You throw it in your cart. Both physically and digitally, that sort of aspect. And I'm just like, there's a weird balance you have to get. And I think it's cutting down story, compressing story to get bang for your buck. Because then you could cut an issue in half and sell that for £1. You know?
Yeah.
And back in the day, you know what they used to do? Poor quality paper, because it was cheaper to print. Manga, prints in black and white, which costs a lot less than full colour. And I know this because I've researched into indie printing places, like full comic book printing companies. And I know what costs less to make. Because I've always had this idea down with our books, that if we sold them physically, we would have a nice thread-bound book on full colour, nice glossy paper, and then we'd have a cheap one. Cheap paper, like newspaper quality. No colour.
Yeah.
So then it's like, oh, I could get this £17 book, or I could get this £8 book. which have the exact same amount of story. But it's nothing. It's not taking out of our wallets at all, because the printing price is a lot cheaper. I would love to see books be reduced in size. So the normal comic book graphic novel, reduce it physically in size so it's smaller. On worse quality paper, a non-glossy cover without any colour, as long as the art still looks good. Do you get what I mean? I would buy that way. I would buy more of them, which would probably go over the amount I would pay for the regular books, because I would be buying more. That's my opinion on the matter and how I think it could overcome it. Do you have any other opinions before we move on to the next trash issue in comics? Fair enough. Next point, which is probably going to be more of a rant. Stupid ass stories. That is literally a bullet point I have. There's some stories which I think is an editorial issue, a writer's issue, and business people in the company thinking they know what the public wants, where they make comic books that no one wants. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They make poor character decisions. They bring on poor artists. They make stories that are so inherently dumb. That was my problem with, what did we read? Absolute Carnage, was it?
Yeah.
I found it a mess of a book. Some stuff was good in it, some stuff wasn't. It's just stories where it's like, none of this makes sense at all. I've read loads of comics, or heard about loads of comics, where the stories physically don't make sense. Of how this character got here, about, wait, that's not in their character. Wait, that is retconning something that happened years ago, which is a strong point of that character, you know? And I think the main issue is that. Just this way to solve it. Take out the business people who do it. You know? Take out that. Don't be like, oh yeah, let's bring in this character, or have this similar to the movie, even though it makes no sense in the comic. Like Infinity Wars, not Infinity War. Infinity Wars directly came out when the movie was released. And do you know what it did? It changed the name of the Infinity Stones to the Infinity Gems, or whatever they call it in the movie. And they changed all the colour around of the stones. Why? Because the movies did it. Does it make any sense? No. As soon as I see that, I know that comic is just a cash grab. That's it.
Yeah.
And I bet you've experienced lots of stuff like that where they change it to look like the movie.
Yeah, they do all the time.
And some stuff it works. Like Star-Lord's design. No offense, was, I believe, bad before the movie came out. And then they changed it to look like the movie, and I was like, okay. But you know what they also did? They changed the entire character. So if you were happy with Star-Lord before, you wouldn't be after. So I think the way to solve it is less business people pushing stuff on comics, better editorial control, and writers being controlled, but then knowing that they have the freedom to negotiate some stuff, you know? Where it's like, will that, like the editor and the writer sits down and goes, will this work as a comic? And they spend an hour sitting there, taking out all the stuff that doesn't work, making sure it all makes sense. That's what I want in my comics. Stories that make sense. Because, obviously, earlier comics, there's not a lot of that, because there wasn't a lot of editorial control, and there wasn't a lot of pressure on the writers and stuff. But these days, you need that quality, because you don't have the market for it. That's pretty much it. That's all I've got for that opinion.
What, for comics suck?
Well, no. Yeah, like writing, just, oh.
Yeah.
Some books can be great, and then others, not so. Do you have any opinions on the matter?
No.
Okay.
Some suck and some are good. That's the way
Exactly.
we summed it up.
And it's like, there's some books I read where it's like, this makes zero sense. For the character, for the story, for the themes of the book, for what's going on in the comic universe right now. I just don't understand. And I don't get how it's not possible, not possible to at least make an okay book. You know? If you don't like a book because it does something with your character that you don't like, but you can still agree it's within character, okay. That's an okay book in my mind. You know?
Yeah.
So that's just it. Stupid ass stories. There you go. There's the title of this section. Which, that's just ridiculous. I'm sorry. Bad books scare me. Now this is another one. This is more not a problem. Well, it is a problem of the comic book industry. That's why we're discussing it. But it's what I want to see. A lack of unity between comic book publishers. And by that I mean Marvel and DC hating each other. Why?
Yeah.
If they
teamed up once.
Yeah, in the 90s when Marvel was dying and so was DC. So you know what to do?
Yeah, they needed each other.
Yeah. If DC went away, so would Marvel. They have, as DC sales rise, so does Marvel. Because they are the big two. Without one, they can't be the other. Because it's a comic industry strung up by these two huge companies. And if one fell, probably so would the other one.
Yeah.
So why not work with each other? And I've read the crossover between books. Sure, the earlier ones were pretty bad. But then, I read a great Batman and Punisher book. It was amazing. It got the characters right, and I just love seeing them together. I was like, yes, please.
Yeah.
I want more of this. But you know what I'm never going to get? More of that. Work together. That's what I love to see. Who is it? DC, they love working with other publishers. They've made a deal with Rooster Teeth. They published Genlock books. Justice League and Ruby had a crossover the other week. Actually, that's an ongoing
crossover with Yogi Bear.
Yeah, well, that's because they own the company, but it's still just have fun.
Yeah.
Justice League crossed over with an Image book. I can't quite remember the name. I think it's something Hammer. Crossed over with them. Great. Hellboy's more likely crossed over with them a lot. Spawn's crossed over with them. Dark Horse, as a publisher, has probably worked with DC a lot.
They do them in the games a lot.
Yeah. Boom Studios. They love... Is it Boom or IDW? I think it's both. They love working with DC. Batman and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle books. There's a Batman and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie.
Yeah.
And we can't even get a Spider-Man and Batman crossover. Ridiculous.
They're the big two.
In my opinion. It's stupid. Because just work together. A lot of the writers
the big
and stuff.
guys in charge, probably.
Yeah. And it's Marvel doesn't work with a lot. I think the most recent crossover I seen was from 5 or 10 years ago. And it was Spider-Man and Invincible. And I'm okay. What else have you got? And I think...
Marvel won't even cross over with stuff that the company that owns them
Exactly.
has.
I think a portion of that is Disney having some control over them. Because
they won't even cross over with Star Wars, and they both own it.
Yeah. I would love to see that. As just like a wormhole opens. Don't say that
Yeah.
Far, far away in the Marvel universe is Star Wars. Don't say that. A wormhole opens... Because
they're on a different multiverse thing, whatever.
Yeah. And if you're interested in Star Wars meeting Marvel, Comic Pop did a great video where they talk about what they think would happen. And obviously an event was spun out of that. The Death Star would meet Galactus. The Death Star would meet Ego the Living Planet. A lightsaber would fall to Earth. You know?
Yeah.
Professor X would go, I feel a great disturbance in my brain. You know? And you're like, oh, wait, what is that? And then there's a Jedi far out there going, I feel a great disturbance is the Force, as Professor X is reaching out for them. You know?
Yeah.
There's going to be... I would love to see that. And I've pitched this forever. Guardians of the Galaxy versus Xenomorphs. You own them now. Why not use them? You're making an Alien book. Just put them in. Because there's obviously lore behind the Alien franchise and stuff. But it's an Alien. There's not an entire universe. There's not Star Wars. So it can be in the Marvel universe. And it doesn't matter. Make fun stories out of that. I love how we've gone from crossing over publishers to just crossing over the stuff you already own.
Yeah, they won't do it though.
Yeah. What I'd love to see... Now, this would create some great... like... I can't even think of the word, but like... strategy and discussion and all of this. Marvel and DC, every month, make an anthology book. Every issue, 2 characters meet. You know?
Oh, like with the Marvel, they teamed up their own characters then.
Yeah. Like, call it Marvel and DC Team Up. There you go. And just every month, cross new characters and have those 2 characters prominent on the front cover. Boom. Wolverine and Mr. Miracle. Fuck it. You know?
Yeah.
Just, you're probably going to... And the main problem is... Why don't they do it? Because they have to split the money. And then there's negotiation... You know the word I'm looking for. What is it, Dan?
Negotiations.
Thank you. There's a lot of that to even get the price. And I've tried...
Just 50-50 it. It's a character from each world. There you go.
Yeah, but that's the problem. 50-50 and doesn't...
Once more.
Exactly. Oh, Batman's in this book with Thor. Thor doesn't sell as well as Batman, so more Batman readers are going to buy this book. So more of the percentage should be to us. And I'm like, no. That doesn't matter.
Yeah, but they wouldn't let Batman or someone like that be it, would they? Because
you know,
he already sells on his own. Why would they want to put him in something else?
Exactly. But that's what I want to see. Batman and Moon Knight. I will buy that book for £3.99. Trust me, I will.
You buy that book for 50 quid.
Exactly. That's actually another video we should do. Where we pitch to each other Marvel and DC crossovers and have a back and forth. That's another idea we've got. But
right on the list.
Yeah. But do an anthology book. And I've had ideas about this before where it's like, how could they do it? How physically could they do it? And this is my thing. DC, you sell the first issue. Marvel, you sell the second issue. DC...
Yeah, but they fight over the first issue because the first issue will probably sell more.
Exactly. But then you know what you do? Hey, on digital, Marvel, you sell the first issue. DC, you then sell the second issue. You know?
Yeah, there'd be lots of arguments though, because
there's always going to be arguments. There's always going to be arguments.
Can't settle anything.
Exactly. And then 50-50 doesn't always work, because then people are like, arr. And then where does the graphic novels go? Where does the collections of the book? Who sells them? Fuck it. Make IDW sell them.
Yeah.
You know?
Just give it to one of the smaller guys.
Exactly. I feel like that would be the only way we'd get a Marvel and DC crossover. Is if it was Spider-Man versus Batman versus Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Printed by IDW. You know? But it's just ridiculous. But I'd love to see more unity between them all. I've seen great things where it's just like, create our own stuff. Like Image. Image crosses over with stuff all the time. And do they care who gets the price? No. Spawn's in an Invincible book. Does it make sense in the universe? Not at all. You know? But they just do it. Because for one, more people will buy that book. And for two, it's a good community. You actually gain something. And do you know what annoys me? The editors of Marvel and DC talk. The writers of Marvel and DC talk. Artists. Artists go back and forth from Marvel and DC all the time.
Yeah.
So it's just...
It's the higher-ups.
Yeah. It's just someone's being ignorant over there. You know? To what they believe
guys are in it for the money.
Yeah. Oh, so ridiculous. It like actually saddens me that we don't get more crossovers and stuff.
Yeah, it's because the guys who are in it for the money are in charge, and when their money starts running out, that's when they'll do it.
That's what I think. In the Comic Pop video about Star Wars, they suggested that was Marvel's break the glass situation. Oh no,
Yeah.
Marvel's failing as a company. Smash! Oh, there's a Death Star next to Asgard. Sold.
Dun, dun, dun.
You know what I mean? Sold. Yeah. I would love it if just for one entire year, every book was a Star Wars tie-in. Every Marvel comic. Just February to the 6th month is just a slow just build up to that. And then 6 months you get like, you'd call it a Star Wars event. And you're just like, boom.
Yeah.
But no, they never. Unless they get in that situation where they need to.
Like, all they could like have to do is just like get one of the species from Star Wars and just make a Marvel character that is that species.
Yeah, and it's like you own both of the companies, so the rights don't matter. Like Marvel and DC, when they were doing their All Access event, made a character called Access, who his superpower was he could go in between the Marvel and DC universe. Marvel and DC own that character. Half and half. 50-50.
Yeah.
But if it's Star Wars and xenomorphs and all of that, you don't need to worry about that.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Like, Star Wars could literally create a Skrull Jedi. And
exactly.
it'd be sick. Like you buy it because it'd be interesting.
Yeah. And do you know what you could do? Darth Vader get the Infinity Stones. There you go. That's the highest selling comic of that month.
Front cover's him with the gauntlet on.
Exactly. Done. Bought. Sold.
Sells.
Easy. Out there. You know?
Yeah.
This is what you do. This would be the next highest selling book. Star-Lord, Groot, Drax on one side of the comic, charging. Han Solo, Luke Skywalker, Chewbacca running at them. There you go. That's the next highest sold book.
Yeah.
Easy.
I thought you were going to say like the Millennium Falcon and the Milano just charging at each other.
Exactly. That could work as well. Or like the Millennium Falcon flying towards all the flight, like an Iron Man. You know?
Yeah.
Like him in the Hulkbuster charging. Sold. Instantly. Highest book ever. It's the same with a crossover. You know?
Yeah.
If you showed me a cover and said it was a real comic of a Batarang and a Moon Knight Shuriken colliding mid-air, I'd already be sold. That one image alone would make me buy that book. You know?
Yeah.
And it's like, if you're in it for the money, at least do what people want as well. And get the stick out your ass and work with each other. That's the only way I can put it.
Yeah.
And by the way, every single one of these topics and 1,000 more will be its own centered video, where I will discuss past events, I will discuss future possibilities, all of this. So be on a lookout for that series whenever it is. So let's go to another one then. What should we do? This is going to be probably a quick one. Lack of marketing. I've seen one comic book advertisement once. And it was on Snapchat. And he was telling me about Marvel Unlimited. That's all I've ever seen. And I Google comics all the time. One of my main bookmarks is Comixology, which I always go to. On YouTube, I always look up comics. So I should be the person they're advertising comics to the most. And I've only ever seen one. Have you seen...
I've seen advertising for one comic. I've seen it for Injustice Year Zero when they started that.
Yeah.
But that wasn't even through their advertising. That was because an article came up in my newsfeed saying about it.
Exactly. Which, to be fair, all the comic publishers do this great. Where they get articles written about them. The writers and artists go onto podcasts and comic pop. Like, they go to comic YouTube channels and goes, hey, a new book's coming out. Can we promote it in your podcast if you let us have an interview? They're great at that. But physical advertising. Never. Digital advertising. Once. What the hell? You know where you see advertising for comics most? In a comic book shop. You know?
Yeah.
I already know Strange Academy is going on. You don't need to put a huge poster of it on the wall telling me to buy it. I know what's going on. I'm not interested. You know?
Yeah.
But if you then remove that poster and then put it on, I don't know, a bus stop, let's say, and you make sure it's easily told that it's a comic, and you put Doctor Strange in the foreground, more people would get it. Be like, oh yeah, I know Doctor Strange. Oh, where can I get it from? That's another problem. Instantly, lack of marketing, done. Instant, quick discussion, there's not enough. Which may mean that there's not enough money to make good marketing. And they've got to
they can barely afford to make the comics.
Yeah, and they've got to use free stuff like podcasts and interviews and articles and all of this, which could be interesting to learn about. Then what was I saying? Do you know where you buy comics? Comic book shop. That's it. Oh, and I'm sorry, certain bookstores. In the UK, we had W.H. Smith's. I looked in the graphic novel section, because of course I did. It was about 4 foot long, the section, about 6 foot high, and had all the comics everyone knows. There sat Age of Ultron. There sat random Spider-Man story number 7. You know?
Yeah.
We go back to the same argument where it's like, it used to be in newsstands. It used to be in Tesco's, used to be in corner shops. And then they realised the direct market is the way to go. Put it straight into comic book shops. There you go. No, both. We need more of both. I've probably bought more comics out of HMV, a DVD seller, than I have in our local comic book shop, Forbidden Planet. I've bought more.
It's too expensive. It's
too expensive, and also, for one, the building's just bad in general. I'll talk about that another day. HMV is easier to get to. I can quickly pop in HMV and have a look.
Yeah.
You know? The comic book shop is so far away, and like, my friends, if I'm out with my friends, they'll want to look in HMV for a DVD or a Funko Pop or a poster or something. And while they're doing that, I can quickly look in the graphic novel section. Even though it's tiny, and it has just like 90% of our local HMV is Batman. But I'm a fan of Batman, so I'm going to get some. You know?
Yeah.
I would love to see, this with the whole thing, more product come into more places. I would love it to see. Yeah. Do you know the only comic that I've ever seen in a Tesco's in the magazine section? Sonic the Hedgehog. And I don't mean like, I mean an IDW book. Not a shitty like magazine publisher for kids. IDW. I'd say one of the top 10 comic publishers.
Yeah.
Sonic the Hedgehog. Why not Spider-Man? You know?
I've seen Avengers vs. X-Men when that was coming out years ago.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
And that's it.
If it was in my Tesco, let's say whatever book is coming out that month, the top 10, or the book they're trying to push the most, goes to the Tesco's. Or like, they have the same one every time. They have one Batman, one Spider-Man, one Avengers, one Justice League, one Iron Man, one Captain America, one Superman, one Wonder Woman. You know?
Yeah, the big characters.
Yeah, if they just kept coming out, I would probably be more likely to pick up a Batman book. You know?
Yeah.
Because it's there. It's in my hands already. I'm looking at the thing. But if I have to go out of my way to get to a comic book store, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, they sell a lot on Amazon now. Good for them. High prices, high postage, whatever. And then it's like, Comixology. That's the best place to get digital books. And then Marvel Unlimited. And what does DC have?
Yeah.
Does DC have anything?
You can buy it. They have an online shop.
Yeah.
But it's only in America.
That's stupid.
I've tried buying books on there and it's told me that it's not available in my country.
Yeah. Marvel and DC should both have eBay-like stores where you go on there and it's just every single book. You know?
Yeah.
And it comes straight from the publisher to your house. Simple, easy.
Actually, DC might have DC Universe. They're all streaming, and that's become a comic book thing now.
Exactly. That's what they should do.
Because it was only in America and it failed.
Yeah. What they should do, they should sell on Comixology, sell on Amazon, have a streaming service of their comics, and have their own personal store. There you go. That's 4 ways for every publisher I can get a book. You know? Try and...
Yeah.
Obviously, you put it in comic book stores, so that's 5. You put it in some, like, pop culture stores, like HMV and etc. You know, bookstores, that sort of thing. Get in more.
Yeah.
Single issues. Boom. But they'll never do that. If it's Batman and Spider-Man, I reckon Tesco would love to sell their books.
Yeah.
Because everyone knows who Spider-Man and Batman is.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Don't mean to cut you off.
Yeah. All right.
That was lag delay. My bad. I know that's a complaint about this podcast.
Yeah. Go on. Carry on what you were saying.
I sometimes, I get a book voucher for Christmas,
Yeah.
And I go into town, and I go into the Waterstones in town to buy a comic, and I have about 5 options.
Exactly. And I'm like, okay, obviously, like, W.H. Smith is going to sell the Watchmen, because of course they are. But it's like, maybe have a section of single issues as well. I feel like Marvel and DC need to push their books into more stores. I know it's hard work to, like, negotiate rates and have profits and deal with their printers to send them there and all of that jazz.
Yeah.
But in the long term, because, like, imagine if you were a kid, you walked into Tesco's, right next to, like, a Beano comic magazine and, like, a Ben 10 magazine which has, like, a toy in it. Right next to that is the newest Spider-Man book. And you see Spider-Man fighting your favourite villain, Venom. And you go, oh,
yeah.
And you tug on your mum's shirt, and you go, oh, could I have this? And it's like, look at the price. £1.99, not £3.99. Sure, throws it in basket. That kid, and in the front of the book, it says, or on the cover, sold every month. Monthly comics. Boom, right on the cover. That kid now knows every month, if he likes the story, he's going back to Tesco's, because it's down the road, to buy another one. You know?
I've seen in a, I think it was an Entertainer.
Yeah.
It was a Batman versus Penguin book, right in the front of the store, I didn't buy it, because I don't like the Penguin.
Yeah.
But if that was in a Tesco...
Yeah. There would be so many people buying it.
And I was a Penguin fan.
Exactly. Or at least, like, if you weren't nerdy like us, and if you didn't have an opinions about Penguin, but you love Batman, because everyone knows who Batman is, you'd buy it, because you don't have an opinion on the Penguin, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing, because then that kid who buys that book monthly from his local retailer is now a fan for life, hopefully. And even if it's not, you got months worth of profit from it. Because you know what I used to do as a kid? I don't know if you know this, Dan, but in our local post office, they sell a lot of magazines. And it used to be, I would get, it was a Marvel magazine that every month you would get about 20 pages of information about Marvel. Whether it's Fantastic Four, whatever. And I used to pay for that monthly. Where my mum card was put on the like till, and every month they would save the magazine for me behind the counter. And then like charge my mum, and then I go into the shop, ask for the book, they give it to me, I leave. I know comic book stores do that, but why not have a comic instead? Why have facts about the comic? That seems so redundant to me.
Yeah.
You know? And in America, DC tried to do it where they got DC Walmart books, which was a 100-page graphic novel with several stories in it. It failed because the Walmart books were put under other stuff. There's a video I love of Jim Lee, the editor of DC, in a Walmart, pushing away Yu-Gi-Oh cards off the top of his comic. Because no one cared. You know? It's not like they partnered with them where it's like, there's a small stall. Like, do you know at the end of a retailer like aisle, you'll have like a cardboard cutout of a shelf and stuff will be on that. You didn't have that. They just put it wherever. It was like, it's a book. We'll just throw it there. I'm like, no. And I wonder, it was a great story, by the way, in those comics. Batman Universe. Great Bendis book. Amazing. But no one read it. Because for one, it was in a Walmart. You don't go to a Walmart to read comics.
No.
Just saying. Do you know what I did see though once? In UK, Costco has only just came to us pretty much. I once walked into Costco and I just walked past their child's book section. And I seen omnibuses of The Walking Dead. Volume 1 to 4. And I was blown away. I was just like, how is there an image book here? And I know it's The Walking Dead, whatever. And I was just looking at it like, my God, if I was a Walking Dead fan and I knew about the comic, of course I'd buy that. Because you know why? It was at an affordable price for what it was. It was a smaller size book, cheaper paper, non-glossy cover. And Walking Dead is already black and white, I think. Or some of the comics are. I know this one was. Buy it. But you know what I've seen? Every time I go into Costco now, I try and find it again. And you know what's it been replaced with? Harry Potter books. Sad but true. Sad but true. So, if I carry on anymore, I think we're going to end the discussion there if you don't have any more points.
Yeah.
Do you have any more points?
No, this is just awful.
Yeah. It's depressing to talk about, which is why we're going to create a series where some episodes I'll just be discussing stuff, sometimes it'll be you on there, Dan, and we'll just talk about comic book issues and how to solve the issue, and I'll do a lot of research on the topic. So that'll be it for today. We've talked about lack of marketing, where to get the book and the problems with the direct market, lackluster stories. What else did we discuss? And the rising price.
Yeah.
And there you go. There's some of the main problems we have. So if you're interested in this topic, if you're far from the future in 2050, look for the playlist that says bad issues. There you go. And if you're watching this now and you like that idea, subscribe to this channel. It will be coming very soon. And thank you for listening.